I don't have aggressive energy towards a woman except in intimacy. And so how I would express my affection oftentimes was aggressive. Like, I want to pick her up.
Yeah.
I don't just kiss her. I pin her up against the wall, put my hand around. I'm not trying to get graphic.
Yeah.
There's context here. So, I come up behind her and hug on her, kind of aggressive. But that would make her really, really shut down. I ain't never been so sensitive to rejection, because we all get rejected, but this the first time I felt that. And what felt safer was to go out and at least have friendships with other girls. Just the conversation felt like receptiveness, like acceptance again. But those loose boundaries turned into no boundaries.
What's happening? What's happening, guys? I had to come on here and do this video about Derrick Jaxn, guys. Had to do the video. We all know what Derrick Jaxn is about. We all know his story. If you hadn't, there's plenty of videos on YouTube for you to go and find out what this guy is about. But I will say this. Derrick Jaxn is a very interesting guy. Very interesting guy. He found a lane to play in. He found a space to be in, which is a simp space, but he found a space to be in. And he used that space to seduce women. And he became very good at seducing women. Basically, teaching women how to detect manipulation from men and to manipulate guys. That's the space that he played in. That's the techniques that he used, and a lot of women bought into it. Millions of women bought into it. So, hey, you can't hate that. He found a way to make a decent living, take care of his family, or take care of himself. Yeah. So you have to give a man credit what credit due. But what makes him very interesting is that he created this character, and you can see him playing the character in this interview. This is an interview that's done by the Dear Wifey podcast. Now, I will remind you that earlier, recently, his ex-wife came on and did an interview. Now he's on there doing the interview. Now he starts off nigger-splaining what happened with him and his ex-wife, and he's explaining a sexual experience. Now, you may think that that's innocent, or he's just trying to lead you into a story, but that is a way that he's seducing his audience, the audience that's watching this podcast. And a lot of audience that's watching Derrick Jaxn is women that is his core audience. Sure, he was very hypocritical in his ideology with his character. See, his character created this ideology that he presented to women. But the only thing about his character that confused him is that he got really mixed up with his real life and the character. He got the two of them mixed up. That was the issue, and that is the issue. Obviously, you can tell by just watching and him coming on this podcast. Now, I will say him coming on this podcast will benefit him, but it won't benefit her, though. Not at all. It won't benefit her, not at all. See, but it's still part of his manipulation tactics and his way of keeping his core audience and gaining more women. Simple as that. That's why he started off giving you a sexual experience, giving the women a sexual experience. See, what most people think is that, of course he's hypocritical, but in the process of him creating his character, he left room for speculation, assumption. So you assumed that he believed in the ideology that was coming out of his mouth, but his real life, he didn't conduct himself in that manner. So that gave you a sense of hypocritical. But he can always say, I never told nobody I was this way. I never told women this was how I conducted myself. Y'all just assumed that I did. You see, that's the part of the manipulation, and that's the part of the seduction that women, they bought into. And so what confuses things is him being on this podcast nigger-splaining. Now, I'm going to play some more of this video for you and let you see.
So, if we continued to clash and she continued to pull away or what have you, and I'm not getting no answers or whatever, I'm, especially in my prideful state, I'm thinking, man, she got me effed up. So I'm over here doing the right thing, and she over here acting like I ain't nothing. So now there's a party tonight, or there's a girl on campus, and then she got her own dorm room. And that's whenever I started messing around.
Which is interesting. Now I realize something. You were trying to be on the straight and narrow, and that aggressive personality that you had, because she told me, well, she told us on the podcast that she had experienced a rape 2 weeks before y'all met.
Everything that happened that was really painful was really one long repetitive pattern.
Right.
Me feeling rejected for this, that, and the other. And she handles, you know, becoming okay again a certain way. But I didn't know certain forms of affection that were natural to me just felt scary to her, put her back in a certain space where, you know, certain things that happen. So, yeah.
And that's so interesting. It's like, I'm getting understanding. It's like you have this woman who has experienced this huge violation of her body, her soul, her spirit, this brokenness. She meets this guy who she says she just loved the mess. She loved your dirty.
Now, listen, guys. Of course, the Dear Wifey podcast, and shout out to the brother, man. I'm all for guys making their money. I'm all for guys finding avenues to take care of their family and being successful. But that just ain't my space. You know, some guys think that, you know, simping is the best approach to women. They think that, you know, and I will say this, simping will get you in a relationship. Simping will get you married. Simping can get you into the bedroom. But at the end of the day, guys, there's certain things that are devastating that comes at the end of simping. It just does. And you never get the best out of a woman simping. You're never going to get the eroticism that you long for, that you wish for, that you hope for from simping. It just doesn't work because simping has too much femininity built into it. Yes, it can be coveted by masculinity, but it's too much simping ingredients. And it's too much feminine ingredients in simping. So, you know, but this is the approach that Derrick Jaxn take, and the Dear Wifey podcast is basically a podcast that seems to be built for simps. And some guys live and die by simping. Okay, if you think that's the best way for you to do, who am I to tell you different? Because I ain't trying to change your mind. It's damn near impossible to change a simp mind. A simp is going to be a simp, and that's just all it is to it. Only way you can get out of being a simp is life has got to drag your ass out of being a simp. Otherwise, you're always going to be a simp. It's simple as that, man. It's just simple as that. So he's over there and nigger-splaining, you know, and basically, in other words, what he's doing is trying to tell you what provoked him to do the things that he did, and that's typically a woman's. That's what women do. That's their approach. Now, and that's approach of I don't want to be accountable for what I've done. I mixed up the character, and instead of Hugh leaving the character where it was, because check this out. If that would have happened to me, first of all, I would have never come on doing no interviews like the way he did. I never did no interview. I just went about my business, and I kept talking to my audience or whatever it would have been. I would have never came on here trying to simp my way back into the audience life, because now there's no way possible that once you got caught being hypocritical and the women said, okay, this fool is not what he's about, there's no way you was going to keep your audience all the way intact. But what you had to understand is that, no, I'm going to lose a lot of followers. I'm going to lose a lot of my audience. But the core audience is never going to go anywhere. And matter of fact, I might lose the audience and then regain the audience, because trust me, as bad as he was, or as hypocritical as he was, women loved him. Women wanted to be with him. Women wanted to be in his presence. So whenever you're a man that other women want to be in your presence, it don't matter what you're doing, unless you're doing some outrageously bodily harm to a woman. But if it's involving sex and relationship, other women are going to buy in. They're going to want to see what you're really about. They're going to think that they're better than the women that you're cheating on, because there's a reason why those other women want you. So that is always going to be working in his favor. But by him coming on these simp shows and then simping, hell, you're gonna lose those women that you might would have gained. So that's what makes all of this very interesting, and that's what makes him a very interesting guy. Because right now, to me, he's all mixed up in all of this stuff. Now, this interview is going to help him, but it's like I said, it's not going to do anything for her. But let's finish up.
Draws. You're wanting to show your affection. You grabbing her by her neck. You've been aggressive physically, you know, from a sexual standpoint. She's getting nervous. She's getting triggered on all levels. Don't even realize that she's been triggered like this. She's closing up rejection to you because you've experienced that growing up. Mom no longer is kissing you and tucking you in bed at night. Rejection. So now you're like, well, now I'm going to go self-medicate. I have this history of looking at porn, and now the way I self-medicate is watching this. So now I'm going to the outward extension of that.
Yeah.
Now I'm over here hanging out with girls. One thing leads to another. Now you over here smashing. Now it's triggering her.
Yeah, guys, that's pretty much the gist of that interview. But like I said, he's over there trying to nigga-splain and for his character. That's not the real you. The real you is what you were doing, man. The real you was out here smashing women left and right while you was married and you had children. That's the real you. So just be the real you, accept the consequences, man, and be done with it. But simps don't do that. They do just like women do. They turn to, I'm not gonna hold myself accountable. And if you try to hold me accountable, then I'm gonna try to convince you I had a reason why I did it. Anyway, guys, that's the Kevin Carhee Show, man. I'm gonna catch up with y'all, man.